Hey, everyone. Glad to have you here again. Today, I've got a brand new story for you. So let's get right into it. Megan and I had been married for a good few years. From the outside, we looked like your average couple. Two people working on a life together, making plans, trying to build something real. But what people didn't see was what happened behind closed doors. Our marriage wasn't easy. Far from it. The fights had become a regular thing. Some were about little stuff. Who forgot to take out the trash, what to watch on TV, things that didn't really matter. But others cut much deeper, hitting at something neither of us wanted to say out loud. We were drifting apart. And the worst part? I wasn't sure if we even knew how to fix it anymore. Even with all the tension, I still loved Megan. I held on to that love, maybe tighter than I should have. I wasn't perfect, I knew that. But I worked hard. I did my best to provide, to make sure we had a future. I had dreams of our own house, a place where we could finally settle down. That idea kept me going, gave me something to hold on to when everything else felt shaky. But Megan? She saw things differently. It was just another evening, nothing special. I came home from work, drained, hoping for a quiet night. Maybe a hot shower, a cold beer, and some peace. But the moment I walked through the door, I could feel it. That tension, the kind that settles in the air like a storm rolling in. She had asked for something. I don't even remember what anymore. And like I always did, I reminded her that we needed to be careful with money, that now wasn't the right time. We were saving for the house, after all, but she wasn't having it. To her, it wasn't about the money. It was about something bigger. The argument started small, like most did. But before I knew it, we were off the rails again, heading straight for that familiar place where things got ugly. Her voice was sharp, each word like a jab, making me feel like I was the problem, like I wasn't doing enough, even when I was giving everything I had. She rolled her eyes, letting out a heavy sigh, her frustration clear as day. I knew what was coming before she even said it. Why do I have to explain this to you over and over again? I took a slow breath, trying to keep my cool. The last thing I wanted was to turn this into another shouting match. Megan, I'm trying. I really am. But it feels like no matter what I do, it's never enough for you. She let out this dry, humorless laugh. The kind that didn't have a trace of warmth in it. Trying? That's what you call this. Charles, this isn't trying. This is you doing the bare minimum and expecting me to be grateful for it. The words hit harder than I expected. I could feel the frustration rising in my chest, bubbling up, ready to spill over. Bare minimum? Really? I wanted to remind her of everything I'd done. The late nights, the extra shifts, the savings account I was building for us. Every single sacrifice I'd made because I thought we were working toward the same goal. But what was the point? She didn't see it. Or worse, she didn't care. That was the part that stung the most. I could feel my patience wearing thin. I'd been holding on, keeping it together, trying not to let this get to me. But something inside me just snapped. I didn't say another word. I grabbed my keys, turned around, and walked out the door. I needed air. Space. Anything but that suffocating feeling of not being enough. That weight had been pressing on me for too long, and tonight, it felt unbearable. I can't do this right now, I muttered under my breath as I stepped out of the house, my hands clenching into fists at my sides. I didn't even look back. I didn't need to. I already knew Megan wouldn't chase after me, wouldn't call my name, wouldn't beg me to stay. She never did. The cool night air hit my face as I walked down the street, but it did nothing to calm me. My mind was racing, thoughts tumbling over each other, one louder than the next. How had we gotten here? How had love turned into this? This endless battle of words, this constant feeling of never measuring up. I barely made it a few blocks before I realized my mistake. Damn it. In my rush to leave, I had left my wallet and card sitting on the kitchen counter. Just perfect. Annoyed at myself, I let out a frustrated sigh and turned back. I hated the idea of going back so soon, hated the thought of walking back through that door and facing her again, but I didn't have much of a choice. I needed my wallet. I needed gas money. Hell, I needed something to pay for the drink I already knew I was going to have tonight. When I got home, I pushed the door open as quietly as I could. The last thing I wanted was to set her off again. If I was quick, maybe I could grab my wallet and be out of there before she even noticed I was back. That was the plan anyway. But the second I stepped inside, I heard her voice. She was on the phone. At first, I wasn't listening. Didn't care to. I was too focused on grabbing my stuff and getting the hell out of there. But something in her tone made me pause. It wasn't angry or frustrated like before. It was different. Then, I heard the words that made my stomach drop. I settled for less. I froze. Every muscle in my body locked up as if someone had just hit pause on me. My heart started pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I should have been with David, but I needed stability. I felt like I had just taken a punch straight to the gut. My fingers hovered over my wallet, my mind racing to catch up with what I had just heard. Was she serious? David? My breathing felt shallow as I listened, my pulse thudding against my temples. Charles is a good man, but not the one I truly wanted from the start. The words cut deeper than any insult she had ever thrown at me. Deeper than all the fights, the eye rolls, the dismissive sighs, the way she always made me feel like I wasn't doing enough. It had never been about money. It had never been about the arguments. It was about me. I wasn't the one she wanted. Not then. Not now. Maybe not ever. Suddenly, everything made sense. The way she had always been just a little distant. The way her affection never felt entirely real. The way she treated our marriage like something she had to endure rather than something she wanted to cherish. I swallowed hard, my throat tight. I wasn't angry, not in the way I should have been. It wasn't rage that filled my chest. It was something worse. A dull, hollow ache. The kind of pain that sits heavy in your bones and makes you wonder how you never saw it before. I reached for my wallet, slipping it into my pocket with slow, deliberate movements. I didn't want her to know I had heard. I didn't want another fight. What was the point? I turned and walked out the door, shutting it behind me without making a sound. Outside, the night air felt even colder against my skin, but it wasn't enough to numb the sting of what I had just heard. My hands felt too tight, too stiff, so I shoved them into my pockets and started walking. At first, I didn't know where I was going. My feet just moved on their own, carrying me through familiar streets, past houses with warm lights glowing through the windows, past cars parked in neat driveways, past everything that looked normal, everything I thought I was supposed to have. Eventually, I found myself in front of a bar. It wasn't one I usually went to, but right now, that didn't matter. I just needed a place to sit, a place to think, a place where the truth could settle in without suffocating me completely. I pushed the door open and walked straight to the counter. The bartender gave me a nod, and I ordered a beer. Nothing fancy, just something to keep my hands busy, something to drown out the thoughts banging against the walls of my mind. I took a sip, letting the bitterness settle on my tongue. But no drink, no amount of alcohol, could compare to the bitterness inside me. Megan had never truly wanted me. I had spent years fighting for us. Years believing that the struggles, the hard times, the sacrifices, I thought they were all worth it. I thought she was worth it. But in the end, I was just the guy she settled for. The safe option. The stable choice. Not the one she loved. Not the one she ever really wanted. I stared down at my drink, watching the condensation bead along the glass, my fingers tightening around it. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't angry. I was just done. It all felt meaningless now. Every fight, every moment of trying to make things work, every night I spent lying awake wondering how to fix something that had never been real to begin with. She had settled for me. That was the truth. And in doing so, she had unknowingly trapped me in a marriage that was never built on love, just convenience. I had been the safe option, the stable choice, the man who could provide what she needed, but never the one she truly wanted. The thought of confronting her crossed my mind. I imagined walking back into that house, standing in front of her, looking her in the eyes, and telling her I knew everything, that I had heard every single word. But what was the point? What would I even say? That I was hurt, that I felt like a fool for spending years fighting for a marriage that had been nothing more than an obligation to her, that I had given her everything, and yet it was still never enough? Maybe she would apologize. Maybe she'd even cry, but it wouldn't change the truth. Her heart had never belonged to me. As I stared down at the amber liquid swirling in my glass, something shifted inside me. A quiet but final decision settled in my bones. I was leaving, not just for the night, not just to cool off. For good. I wasn't going to wait around, hoping for something that would never come. I wasn't going to beg for love that was never mine to begin with. And I damn sure wasn't going to stay in a marriage where I was nothing more than a backup plan. No, I was done. I would erase myself from her life completely. No warning, no explanation. She wanted the freedom to be with whoever she truly desired? Fine. I'd give her exactly that. I raised my hand to get the bartender's attention. Another, I said, my voice steady, calm. This was it. The last night I would ever spend as Megan's husband. By morning, I'd be gone. That night, while Megan slept peacefully in our bed, a bed we were supposed to share, a bed where she had never truly wanted me, I sat in the dim glow of my laptop screen, my mind clear for the first time in years. She wanted another man? Fine. I wouldn't stop her. But I wasn't leaving empty-handed. I logged into our joint savings account. The process was effortless. I had always been the one managing our finances. I had handled the bills, tracked our expenses, made sure we were on the right path. And now, that path no longer included her. The numbers stared back at me. We had been saving to buy a house. I had put in 80% of that money, every extra shift, every sacrificed weekend, every dollar I had tucked away with the hope of building something real. She had contributed barely anything. That money was mine. But I wasn't stupid. I knew taking out large cash withdrawals would raise alarms. I needed to be smarter. So I moved the funds strategically, purchasing resellable assets online, electronics, rare collectibles, valuable items that could be liquidated later without a trace. Every move was calculated, every step covered. Once the transactions were complete, I wiped the evidence, clearing the emails, deleting the confirmations. By the time she woke up, she wouldn't have the slightest clue where the money had gone. She could keep the house savings dream. I was taking my investment elsewhere. Then I turned my attention to the next step. Packing. I didn't need much, just the essentials. Important documents. Enough clothes to last me until I got settled somewhere new. Cash. Anything that could help me rebuild without looking back. I had no intention of taking anything sentimental. There was nothing worth holding on to anymore. Every framed photo, every keepsake, every little reminder of the life we had tried to build, it all felt like a joke now. A lie I had been too blind to see. She had never really been mine, and that meant this wasn't really my home. Before leaving, I sat down at the desk, staring at the blank sheet of paper in front of me. I didn't need to say much. There was nothing left to say. The truth had already been spoken, just not to my face. I didn't need to hear it directly. I had already heard enough. Every word she whispered into that phone, every truth she had hidden behind half-hearted affection and empty promises, it was all out in the open now. And no amount of pretending, no half-baked apology, would change that. I picked up a pen, my grip steady, my mind clear. There was nothing left to say, nothing left to fight for. So I kept it simple. I overheard everything. I won't stand in the way of your happiness. Go settle with your ideal partner. No anger. No accusations. No pleading for answers I didn't need. Just a final goodbye. By the time the first light of morning spilled through the windows, I was already gone. Megan woke up expecting just another morning. The same routine. The same life. The same me waiting somewhere in the house, ready for another round of our silent, slow-burning war. But the moment she stepped out of bed, her eyes landed on the note. It sat on the table, waiting. She picked it up, reading the words once, twice, a third time, as if by some miracle, they might change. And then it hit her. He knew. A cold wave of panic shot through her, fast and sharp, setting every nerve on edge. Her heart pounded in her chest, her breath coming in shallow, uneven gasps. She reached for her phone with trembling fingers, dialing my number, barely able to type from the sheer shock running through her veins. Straight to voicemail. She tried again. And again. Disconnected. Her stomach twisted. This wasn't like before. This wasn't one of our fights where I'd storm off, only to return a few hours later. This time was different. This time, I had meant it. Desperation crept in as she opened her laptop, clicking into her email, typing fast. She kept it short, knowing I wouldn't read anything long. Charles, please. Just talk to me. She hit send. Seconds later, the screen flashed. Undelivered. Her entire body tensed as realization crashed over her. I hadn't just left. I had erased myself. She rushed to social media, scrolling through her contacts, searching for any trace of me. Gone. No account. No history. No photos. It was as if I had never existed. Her breathing grew unsteady as she tried to think of somewhere. Anywhere I might have gone. Maybe I had gone to work. Maybe this was just some overreaction. Grabbing her phone again, she dialed my workplace, fingers shaking. The phone rang. Once. Twice. Nothing. She called again. No answer. Minutes passed like hours before, finally, someone picked up. The receptionist's voice was calm, casual. As if nothing was wrong. As if her entire world hadn't just fallen apart. Oh, Charles? He resigned this morning. Sent an email before office hours. Effective immediately. Megan's grip on the phone tightened, her nails digging into her palm. He had planned this. This wasn't some spur-of-the-moment reaction to our fight. He had taken his time, thought it through, covered his tracks. He had vanished, step by step, making sure that by the time she realized it, it would be too late. A sinking, sickening feeling took over as she looked around the house, the empty space, the quiet, the absence of him. For so long, she had assumed he would always be there. That no matter how many times she dismissed him, ignored his efforts, made him feel like he wasn't enough, he would still come home, still fight for a marriage she had long since given up on. But she had pushed him too far. And now? Now, he was gone. And this time, he wasn't coming back. There was no taking it back. No undoing what had been done. Megan had made her choice, and I had made mine. With me gone, she no longer had to play the role of the devoted wife. No more pretending. No more secrecy. No more tiptoeing around the truth that had always been there, lurking beneath the surface. She was free, and she wasted no time turning to David, the man she had called her true choice all along. What had once been an affair hidden in whispers, stolen glances, and carefully timed messages had now stepped into the light, no longer needing to be concealed. There was no husband standing in the way anymore, no guilt to weigh her down. At first, everything must have seemed perfect. David said all the right things. He made her feel wanted. He reassured her that she had done the right thing, that leaving me behind was a step forward, not a mistake. He was everything she had imagined. I wasn't passionate, exciting, spontaneous. With him, there were no exhausting conversations about money, no long nights worrying about the future, no tension over the realities of life. For the first time, she truly believed she was living. And maybe, for a while, she was. Months passed, and I became nothing more than a shadow in her past. Whatever little piece of me still remained in her world, she erased it completely. She filed for divorce. With no way to contact me, no response from the ghost of the man she had left behind, the court had no choice but to issue a default judgment in her favor. Just like that, she was single again. Legally free. It was done. And for a while, it felt like she had one. But life has a funny way of unraveling the illusions we convince ourselves are real. At first, everything with David seemed effortless. He was charming, that much was undeniable. He gave her affection, made her feel desirable in ways I never could, or at least, in ways she had convinced herself I never had. She had spent so long believing that I was the problem, that she had settled for less with me, that the love I had offered her was lacking. But then, as the months passed, the cracks began to show. David, for all his sweet words and grand gestures, was distant. He was there in the ways that mattered least, the playful texts, the public displays of affection, the exciting weekend getaways. But when it came to the things that truly mattered, the things that required effort, sacrifice, and commitment, he was absent. Whenever she brought up the future, he dodged the conversation, shifting the topic as if it was something that didn't concern him. And then, the truth started to unfold. David had never belonged to her. Not fully. She found out that she wasn't the only one. There were others. Other women who had been receiving the same charming words, the same attention, the same fleeting moments of passion that she had mistaken for love. What she had believed was deep, intoxicating love had been nothing more than a convenience to him. He had never seen her as his future. She had only been a temporary thrill, a beautiful distraction. She had left a man who had given her everything for someone who had never intended to give her the same. That's when the comparisons began. The very things she had resented about me, the things she had once hated, were now the things she couldn't ignore. I had always been reliable. No matter how hard things got, I had stayed. I had shown up, fought for our marriage, believed in something real even when she had checked out. I had sacrificed my comfort, my time, my money to build something stable with her. But David? He had given her nothing. No security. No stability. No future. With me, there had been a home in progress, a future in the making, a plan. With David, there was nothing. And then, the realization must have hit her like a freight train. She had never settled for less. She had thrown away something real for an illusion. What Megan and I had wasn't perfect. Far from it. But it was real. It was built on something solid. Even if it had cracks, even if it had struggles, even if we didn't always see eye to eye. I had given her my love, my time, my effort, everything I had. And I had believed, truly believed, that we were working towards something bigger, something lasting. But that hadn't been enough for her. What she had with David, that was everything she thought she wanted. Excitement, passion, the thrill of the unknown. But it was never meant to last. Years passed. Megan was still single. David, the man she had once convinced herself was her true love, her ideal partner, the one she was supposed to have chosen all along, never became what she expected. She had left me behind, believing she was walking toward a better future. A future where love was easy, where everything fell into place without effort or sacrifice. But reality had a way of creeping in, slow and painful. The truth was, David had never been serious about her. Whenever she brought up marriage, he brushed it off, changed the subject, or outright dismissed it. At first, she convinced herself that it was just bad timing, that he wasn't ready yet. She believed that if she just gave him more time, he would commit to her the way she had given up everything for him. But as the years stretched on, and as excuse after excuse piled up, it became impossible to ignore the truth staring her in the face. David was never going to marry her, because to him, she had never been the one, just one of many. She had left her marriage, believing she was choosing real love, but she had only become another option in a long list of women who had all fallen for the same charm. And when the arguments between them started, when she demanded answers, demanded to know where she stood in his life, David never hesitated to throw one sentence back in her face. "I never asked you to leave your husband." It cut her every time. Humiliation, anger, regret. It all crashed over her at once. Because the worst part was, he was right. He never made her any promises. He never begged her to leave me. He had never told her that if she walked away from our marriage, he would be waiting with open arms, ready to build a life with her. That had been her choice. A choice she could never take back. And now, every now and then, I imagine she thinks about me. Where did I go? Did I move on? Did I rebuild the life we once planned? Only with someone else? Did I find the kind of love she never gave me? I know the thoughts must creep up on her when she least expects them. Because regret always does. She had a man who loved her. A man who wanted to build something with her. A man who sacrificed for her. And she threw it away. For a man who never even saw her as a real option. And that's the story. So, what can we learn from this? Sometimes, we don't recognize the value of what we have until it's gone. It's easy to overlook the quiet, steady efforts of someone who truly cares, only to regret it when they're no longer there. People chase what they think they want, believing something or someone better is waiting for them just around the corner. But in the end, they realize too late that they already had what they needed all along. Words have power. The things we say about our partners, especially when we think they're not listening, can either strengthen a relationship or completely destroy it. Because love isn't just about passion or excitement. It's about trust, respect, and true companionship. And if those things are missing, no amount of attraction, no amount of fleeting excitement can ever make up for it. At the end of the day, if you don't appreciate someone's presence, you may have to learn to live with their absence. I walked away, not out of anger, not to punish her, but because I finally understood something she never did. Staying in a place where you aren't truly wanted will only break you down. Some people fight for love no matter what. Others know when it's time to let go. So what do you think? Did I make the right decision by walking away? Or should I have stayed and fought for a marriage that was already lost? Let me know in the comments below. Until next time, take care and stay wise.